All right, y'all. We are back in effect for the spring portion of our Alumni on Air video podcast season. I am so thrilled to have this beautiful woman here with me because literally this is it's like being with one of your sheroes. Like I don't think she did not say that, but joining the core, she came before me, and I just remember hearing and seeing her beautiful self and just hearing all the good things about her. And I've always like, who's that girl? Who's she? And just getting to know her if you know her, you love her. And she's been doing so much great work here in Memphis. So we got to get into her story soon. But before we do that, I just want to introduce myself again for those who are like, who's this lady talking? I'm Dr. Jamisha Hayes. I'm the Managing Director of Programs for Teach for America Memphis. And I am here hosting our video podcast in the Memphis office where we get alums to come in and tell us the reason they came to TFA, what made them stay in Memphis, and the impact they're doing towards our overall vision of one day all children having access to educational excellence. I could not do this work without James Larkin. He is our Director of Alumni Communication. He's behind the camera. He's doing all the things to make sure that you get this information. So please in the chat, show him some love because James is awesome. And again, another awesome person is my guest. So, without further ado, please tell everyone who you are.
My name is Kenyari Brooks. Information about just me as a person, my job currently.
I would just want to know, just like, what makes you you? Like, what makes you uniquely you? I know.
That wasn't
on the list. That wasn't on the list. No.
I think that one thing that makes me who I am, for better or worse, is literally just having this conversation. I do feel like I pour a lot of who I am into the work that I do. I really feel like, that is my purpose in life, is to and somehow impact education for students, for families, and I take that seriously. And I think that really guides how I wouldn't say live my life, but I would say show up in my work, and my work is important to me. I also feel like, who am I? I know that I like to run my mouth. So when you said, do you want to come out? I was like, sure, if you want to hear me ramble. But I love to tell a story. I think that, Margaret Atwood says in the end, we all become stories. So I think that it's important to share where you are, where you're going, because I do think it can impact other people, and you can learn so much about yourself in the ways that other people share who they are and give of themselves. So.
I love it. I love that. And speaking of stories, I want to hear the story of your name. What's the story behind it?
Wow. So my mom, initially my dad wanted me to be named Jessica. He is Jesse.
Oh.
And she wanted me to be named Jessica. And sorry, Jessica's out there. This is my dad, may he rest in peace. He wanted Jessica too, but my mom said all the Jessicas she knew were fat and ugly. So I was not Jessica. And my dad's mother actually named me. Grandma Lou named me. And the thing about it is all you can do is take it at face value, right? Because Grandma Lou's not with us anymore.
Right.
And she said that Kenyari meant the evening stars in sky. Now, is it true? We don't know. But that's what I hold on to.
We're going to believe that. We're going to play that right now. It's the evening stars in the sky. Yes, that's what it is. And I agree with that. I love that. Shout out Mom. Shout out Dad. And shout out Grandma Lou. Everybody.
Yeah. And shout out Jessica's out there. Don't listen to my mama.
You're beautiful. You are amazing.
Right.
So, more than likely, you probably had a Jessica in your core, but back home, where are you from? Tell us where your hometown is for you.
So it's hard to say. I would say that I probably, until I moved to Memphis is a place where I've lived the longest in my entire life. Growing up, we used to move every 3 years. My dad worked for the federal government, and at that time, in order for him to get opportunities as a black man in federal government, we had to move. So I was born in Kenyari, New Mexico. We lived in Oklahoma at that time, but my mama didn't want to have a baby born in Oklahoma, so she went back home to have me. And then we drove back, and shout out Mom.
Shout out Mom. Look, I'm putting your mom on the podcast next.
Right. She's got gems. She's got stories. But so I was born in Kenyari, New Mexico, lived in Oklahoma for the first 9 years of my life in 3 different places. We lived in Duncan, Oklahoma, Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's where Oklahoma State University is. And then we moved to Chickasha, Oklahoma. Don't nobody know where that is.
I sure don't know that. I was
so I lived there first 9 years. Then we moved to West Virginia, just across the country. I'd never seen trees like that before in my entire life. We lived there for about 2.5 years. Then we moved to Kentucky around 1996. Right. And we lived there until, well, my mom and my family still lives in Kentucky. But we moved to Frankfort, Kentucky. I graduated from Kentucky State in Frankfort, Kentucky. And then, yeah, so just kind of moved around. I call home Lexington, Kentucky, because that's where my mom and my niece and my family lives. But I'm just kind of a traveler, a nomad.
You know, okay, and this is, y'all love my podcast. I get to know so much about people that I did not know, and I did not know that you traveled so much. So where'd you go to college then?
I went to undergrad at Kentucky State University. Shout out K-State, HBCU in Kentucky. I got my first master's degree at Xavier University, Cincinnati, Ohio. Go Muskies. And then I did Teach for America and went back to Oklahoma and did my core year in Tulsa, which I don't think is a region anymore. I think it's Oklahoma region now. But that was the first Teach for America area in Oklahoma in 2009. And then I moved to Memphis in 2011.
So how did you hear about TFA with all this back and forth, love?
So 2009, for those young folks, was the height of the recession. So that's probably, I don't know Teach for America history like that, but what I will say is they opened up several regions that year. Detroit opened that year. Tulsa opened that year. A lot of Teach for America was a big thing back then. They had large core classes, I guess, and a lot of people who did the Tulsa core were like waitlisted because they were filling these new regions. So it was just something that one of the girls I went to college with, she did Teach for America. And she was like, you should consider it. I was at Xavier getting my master's degree in education, but like a lot of people during that time, and even now, that's why we have alternative cert programs, I couldn't take time away from the job that I had while I was going to grad school to do student teaching. I just financially couldn't do it. So I was looking for alternative certification programs, and Teach for America popped up.
What were you doing for work during that time?
Wow, I worked in the writing center at Xavier, so I was a grad assistant. I also worked at the EPA, and I did like document review for them, kind of like a copy editor.
Okay, so you get TFA. So you chose Tulsa, or you chose another region?
I chose another region.
See, that's what I did too. See, and it didn't go that way. Okay, how'd it go?
I was actually waitlisted 4 times.
What?
4 times, y'all. But I'm still in this thing. I was waitlisted 4 times. My top regions, I think Memphis was a top region because I didn't really want to go too far from home.
Right.
I think I might have put maybe like just things that were local, as closely to Kentucky, Cincinnati area as I could.
Right.
And I just kept getting a no and kept getting no and kept getting the, I was waitlisted and waitlisted and waitlisted. I was like, okay, well, I just need to let this go. And I actually applied to work at a KIPP school in Indianapolis. And that school, I got a job, got an offer. And then that school closed. So then I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
What?
And Teach for America was like, great, you're on our wait list. You can go teach high school in Dallas. And and I was like, I can't. I'm still in school.
Right.
Xavier had us do a test, y'all, for my master's. Like I still had to do a thesis, but we had to do a sit-down handwritten test for me to graduate. So I wasn't ready. I couldn't go.
You couldn't go.
So I had to tell them no. And then I got another call like, well, would you be willing to go to Tulsa? And I was like, I mean, I've been in Oklahoma before, why not?
Why not?
But also, I was getting my master's in secondary English education, and I was placed in kindergarten.
Okay, I did not know any of this, y'all. And my legs are kicking under the table because I'm just so excited. Because I've always known you as a fine, amazing elementary school educator. I just knew that. My mind is mind blown. So wait, you telling me? So they knew that you had the secondary experience, and they still placed you in elementary.
In early childhood. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
So that's how Tulsa, and so your original question was, why'd you come here?
Yeah.
Or how'd you get here? So I want to say, and I don't know if this happened in Memphis during this time, I want to say it was like winter of 2010, well, just beginning of 2011 maybe. And we had a major snowstorm in Tulsa where we were out of school for like 2 consecutive weeks,
Mhm.
almost like our winter storm we just had.
Right.
And I was like, I need to move closer to home because to drive from Tulsa to Lexington, Kentucky was a 12-hour drive, and that was too far for me.
Yeah.
So I was looking at jobs in New Orleans. I was looking at jobs. I was like, well, I'll look in Nashville. I'll look in Memphis. And Tiffany Needham, her husband was my PD at that time, Paul, and she was like, think about, have you considered Memphis? She knew I was between Nashville and Memphis. And y'all, I went on Craigslist and saw a apartment opening across the street from this new charter school, which was Memphis College Prep, founded by Mike Whaley. And so I just looked up Memphis College Prep, messaged Mike, and it just so happened that we had a TFA national summit in DC, and I met Mike there, and we interviewed there. And he was like, okay, when you can, come to Memphis. I drove from Tulsa to Memphis and did like a day-long interview, and shout out Mike Whaley. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, shout out Mike Whaley. We literally had him on, go check out that episode. He was on one of our guests. Okay, so now you're here in Memphis, but before we jump into the Memphis thing, I want to hear a little bit more about your core experience. And I think you can probably tie in, it's almost like, hearing your story, it's almost like we had 2 core experiences. You had one in Tulsa and one, so I want to hear about both experiences.
So Tulsa was a unique experience because several reasons. I don't think that it was a brand new region, so that comes with a lot of things.
That's true.
And one of the things is that some people in Tulsa were really excited to have us, and a lot of people in Tulsa weren't excited to have us. So, we're getting this welcome reception from, I guess you could say, like philanthropic organizations and those things, but in the schools, we were literally taking positions of people who were less effective, and that was not always the best. If you're a brand new teacher and you're going into a school and there are people who, they would call us all things, Teach for Americans, teachers across America, we would correct them and they'd just be like, we don't care. But because of that, I think that it really made us a really tight group, tight-knit group. At my placement school, I was placed in a school and there were 2 other core members there. And I don't think I would have made it without Jana and Andrew.
Shout out Jana and Andrew.
Yeah, we held each other down because we were going through this experience of trying to change perception of what Teach for Americans was, teachers across America, and show them that we are here to affect change and we're here for students and to provide more equitable education. It just didn't feel like that. And over the years, there's been a better reception, but I think our unique situation, and a lot of, myself, who was waitlisted, a lot of us were, so we also had that connecting experience. I'm thankful for all of the core members who I was able to make really strong relationships with, because in the climate, it was just so necessary for us to lean on each other. So community is major, and I think that community, that's one thing I will say about Teach for America is you have such a vast network if you're willing to tap into that network and if you're willing to participate in the programming. As someone who also did TFA as a non-traditional core member, I came in and I was 25, so I was older. I still needed to plug in because I didn't know anybody in Tulsa. So I had to rely on my core. We all came from different places. No one was God bless Memphis, and we have so many people who are from Memphis and committing to the work here. That wasn't the case. So we were all new to the city and figuring it out. And that's why I felt so comfortable reaching out to Mike Whaley from a Craigslist ad, to see, hey, he's a Teach for America alum. He is opening up a school. This is a network that I can tap into. So it was just super important to find community and continue to cultivate community.
I think that is so rich, and I hope everyone is really soaking that in, because that is the secret sauce, I think, for TFA Memphis, but I am starting to understand that's how it is across the country. If you see someone and they did TFA, they're more than likely going to be like, yep, you're going to have some story about your experiences at Institute, or for those of you now pre-service and practicum, they'll have some experience about first year teaching, learning to teach it the first time, and they're going to have some experience about the parties that we have. You know, we always have parties, so we have a good
And
time.
that's part of building community.
That's part of building community, though. That is a part of building community. And I'm glad you named that about the leaning in, because I did the Corps in Memphis in 2011. I was a native Memphian, but I had no clue about teaching. And even though I was in Memphis, you'll be surprised at living in the city thinking you understand and know, and you still have no clue, or you still have more to learn and grow. So if it wasn't for people who weren't from Memphis exposing me to things and pushing me, because people sometimes is not from your city are more plugged into trying to find things, and you can get into your own little bubble. So community looks like you really leaning in, like you said, and trying new things and doing things together. I think that is very important. So with teaching wise, do you have any core memories of that teaching, that first teaching with your babies or anything, especially that transition from having all that learning for secondary education to now early education? Anything that stood out for you in that experience?
Two things. I think one, what it looks like to fully embrace being the adult in the space, being the adult in the classroom. So I was not prepared to teach 5-year-olds. I was really hoping for high school. And in Tulsa, shout out to Oklahoma for one thing I think that they did really well, was early childhood education. So we had a big early childhood community within our cohort, people who were teaching 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. And so a lot of my students had gone to pre-K, had been in school since they were 3. But with that being said, your kindergarten classrooms were large. So you could get an assistant if you had 30 students in your classroom. Well, in our hallway, our little section, everyone had 29. So we all had about 29 kids in our classroom, and I love Marian Anderson Elementary School. That's where I was placed in North Tulsa, not far from the Greenwood, Peoria, Patchy area where the Black Wall Street was located. But the thing about that was I wasn't prepared for not only 29 friends, but also that I was going to be feeding them breakfast and lunch in my classroom every day. And I didn't know how to do that. And when I tell you, learning how to not only teach 5-year-olds, but manage how to feed them, how to clean up after feeding them, how to get them back on task, how to have a nap time. Didn't know how to do that. So those were like really pivotal moments. And I think going back to like being the adult in the classroom, while there was some folks who weren't as welcoming of us in Tulsa at that time, my mentor teacher, who was our grade level chair, she was about, I would say Nina maybe was in like late 50s, early 60s. She was great. She taught pre-K, and she kind of took us under her wing because I think she believed in what we were doing, and she could hear me not being my best self, redirecting 5-year-olds, and like she would come down the hallway, and she was my coach. I mean, not that Paul was not my coach, but Nina was there every day, and she just really helped me recognize what it means to hold 5-year-olds to expectations, how to be kind to little kids and not frustrated with them. And it really just made me reflect on how do you show up as an adult in this space, because I don't think that I was ready for that, but I needed another adult to walk alongside me and do it, which was really powerful for me. And I think about Nina all the time because she came in one day, and I was hollering at them kids, y'all. I'm gonna be honest with you, I was hollering at them kids. I was not prepared to feed them and do all the things, and I had lost it. And she came down and she was like, would you want your child to be in your classroom? And I was like, no. No, ma'am.
Yeah.
Would you want someone to talk to your child the way that I can hear you talking to them kids down the hallway? And I was like, okay. And I think it's the candor and the support that really made me realize and want to continue to be in the work and work with teachers and pre-service teachers and new teachers, because I probably wouldn't still be here if Nina didn't come down and keep it real with me.
You know what, and I'm glad that you shared that story, because what I have seen of her has always been a dynamic coach and just leader. And what you described of Nina, honestly, Kenyari, is what I've always seen of you. You've always been that person that's like, I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm going to give it to you real. I'm going to wipe them tears. I'm going to let you have it. But I'm going to hold you accountable with love. And it's always been a calm strength with you, but it's been a love there. And I never told you that, honestly. It wasn't until that story that I can see, remember you at Freedom Prep, remember you at Institute, just remember you working with corporate. I can remember you even with kids. I just have this image of you, like, babies crying and you kind of like holding their hand or something like that and helping them walk out the class or something. I just remember that. And I just think that's really, really uniquely beautiful about you. And I didn't know that Nina was part of, she gave it to you.
I think that is like part of this, like, times are hard in classrooms across America. Times are hard in classrooms here in Memphis. And sometimes when we as adults aren't showing up as our best selves, and all the beautiful things you're saying about me, there are times 100% that I can name that I was not my best self. I did not treat those students with dignity and see their humanity. And I feel like part of being someone who cares about people is to, like, you know, share the great things, but also like keep it real with somebody. If I really truly care about you, why would I let you go out here and continue to do this? And that's what it gave to me. And if she truly cared about me, then she needed to say those things. And if she didn't care about me, I would still be out here probably hollering at kids, you know, not seeing them for the whole people that they are and the challenges that they have, because that's what she saw in me.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I think we have to remember that vulnerability and that reflection. I remember in our core, we used to make fun of, I think it was Athena, and somebody was like, reflect. One time I think we all just said, reflect. But now that I'm on the other side of it and in this moment with you, what she provided you with was an opportunity to stop and reflect.
Absolutely.
And say, let me pause and look at how I'm showing up and the choices I'm making and how that's impacting these babies. But then what gave me chills was when you pull it personal and realize these are still, like, if I had a kid, would I want to be in that classroom? So when you do, you know, now a lot of us are parents or some kind of way caretaking, you think about that. You think about your baby outside of you and in another classroom. And let somebody holler at your baby. You own the way. You already there. But you also, I would wonder, even if that were the case and you heard, you know, heaven forbid, you heard that it happened with your children, you would almost probably think back to when you were teaching and probably get that same type of coaching and love to them and say, hey, I know you're better than this as a teacher, and I know at this point I can tell you need a little bit of love and a little bit of correction.
Hello. Yeah.
So that was Tulsa. So what about the MCP experience and founding? Because being a part of a, so you, and actually maybe you're the founder's teacher or something, because like that was a founding core. And then MCP was founded when you were coming there too, right?
I think that was, I was coming in on maybe their second year. Okay. So Mike had already started the school. Ashley Fox, I remember very vividly, she was the person that took me around the school and talked really candidly about the pros and cons of the school and why I should consider moving here. So, but what, to your point, it was in very like the inception years. And it was a TFA heavy school.
Yeah,
right?
It was.
Literally, I just saw Liza Ambrose. I co-taught with Liza at MCP. She's working for a Tennessee school, I think now. And so, you know, there was just a lot of, again, built-in community. I think that we were together all day, but also we all had this connection through Teach for America. Some of the people that, like, I was telling Jamisha before we started, trying to plug other people to come on here, are people that I taught with at MCP. And I was talking to Rick Anderson, who was my co-teacher. He was a first year core member, and I was in my third year teaching. And at his recent birthday party, we were just talking about TFA in Memphis. And like, that was my community. I knew two people when I moved here. And through Teach for America, Tim Pruitt and Willie Bird showed up to help me unload my U-Haul. Didn't even know those people. And then my community at school really shaped how I experienced Memphis. And those people I worked with at MCP are still really close friends now. Because I think you see the good, you see when people exemplify excellence in education, and you see when people are not exemplifying excellence. And I think that vulnerability and people seeing you at those moments build a different type of relationship. But that's how I moved around Memphis, was with my friends that I taught with. So Rick and I, or Alex Kerr, like we would all just be around the city, just bebopping and hanging out all the time.
Shout out 2011 Rick, you know, or remember Sequoia, I love y'all. Definitely we had our own little experience with our experience, but I never knew that side of the story. So that's beautiful. So, and I think that's what it, like, the core experience and us coming together, we were our own little family. We were our own little tribe. Like, that was the people that you know, did all the things with and who did see you at your most vulnerable because of the intimacy of us having sometimes on each other. Because I do think even in Memphis, there was still a little bit of tension of TFA even in Memphis, even around that time. Because there were some people who were fans and some people who were just like, no, I'm not feeling this for various reasons. So I think we still had to similarly band together, join together. So when you finished your core commitment, you came to Memphis, and then you did MCP. How long were you at MCP?
I was at MCP for about 2 years, no, maybe 3 years, maybe 2 years. I taught, I want to say maybe it was 3 years, and then I left MCP and worked in North Memphis. I worked in Fraser with the ASD.
Yep, that's what it was.
And that was my 5th year of teaching. So maybe it was just 2. It's hard to remember. Things get muddy, but after teaching at Corning, I came to work on staff.
Okay, and so let's talk about that transition. So how did you? So you taught basically a total of 6 years then, or so.
I taught 5 before I joined. So in the classroom for 5 years before joining staff.
What was the transition to saying I taught, and all of that was elementary?
All of it was kindergarten, 1st grade.
And so the secondary just went away. We just.
Well, I'm back in secondary now.
Okay, we're gonna get back to it. So you finished. Okay, so what made you say I gotta join staff, TFA staff?
I think I needed, and again, maybe having this echo of Nina in my ear. I don't think the year that I worked at Corning Elementary, I think was the hardest year of teaching in my 5th year. So, you know, sometimes we talk about like it'll get better, and it does get better, right?
Yeah.
But that was the hardest year of teaching for several reasons, and I think it's when I recognized that while I might show up, I am a person of color, right? Me showing up as a person of color doesn't mean that I inherently understand the community.
Thank you for saying that.
Just because I might share a skin tone of the students I serve does not mean that I get what they're going through, because I don't. And I that difference was very stark in Fraser. Again, in Oklahoma, I had so many friends who had gone to pre-K before. So, you know, I could start off, hit the ground running. They knew colors, they knew letters. They could recognize their name because they had been doing that because they had invested in early childhood education. Coming to MCP, parents made the choice to send their child there, right? Which was very different. Working in the ASD in North Memphis, at Corning Elementary, I did not understand the impact that not sending your child to an early education program has. I had never, in my mind, it was just mind-blowing the differences between students who go to pre-K and don't. And it was vast, and I wasn't prepared for it. I also assumed a lot because I was like, okay, I'm a person of color, I get it. I don't get it, and I'm not from North Memphis, and even though you might feel like you show up that way, they knew before I even opened my mouth that I was not from there. And I never felt that opposition before. And I think I wanted to stay in the work, but I knew that I probably wouldn't show up as my best self if I continued to stay in the classroom. But I wanted to make an impact. I've always been interested in teacher coaching, had done some work as a CMA at Institute prior to coming to Memphis. So I knew that I wanted to work on staff, and I was like, this might be the respite I need to be able to continue to go back to the classroom at some point, which I did. But that was kind of the impetus to leave the classroom and join staff.
So what was the experience like now on the other side of you being the Nina, you coaching and supporting?
Wow. So I feel like in some capacity I've been coaching and supporting since summer of 2010. I worked on staff in the Phoenix Institute. And I was like, this is what I want to do. When I was at Institute, I was like, I'd love to do that. Don't know nothing about what I'm doing, but I want to do that. And so in some form or fashion, leaving the classroom after TFA, went to be a school-based dean at Freedom Prep in Westwood, and did, just have always been adjacent to teacher coaching in some way. And I think that a large part of it might have to do, now that we're talking about it, might have to do with like the impact that a mentor has.
Yeah.
The impact of being able to be seen and share what your concerns are and have somebody walk alongside you with that was just so powerful to me, and it's been something that I've always wanted to do. So your question was like on the other side, why this idea about teacher coaching? And I think that that's it, is that you can't do this work alone.
You can't.
And I know that you feel like you can close your door and I'm just gonna do what I wanna do. You are gonna do what you wanna do, but your classroom is part of a grade level. Your classroom is part of a school. You're not doing this work alone.
No.
And I think that it is so helpful to have somebody in that space who sees you and can help you just try this one thing. And you know what, it might work or it might not work.
Yep.
But at least we tried it, and there's got to be something that keeps us continuing on, because if not, if you don't have that person that's walking alongside you, it's easy to burn out.
It is, and I think we have to have somebody that can be that space for us to be seen and to give us space and confidence and encouragement to try to fail sometimes. It's okay to fail forward. It's okay to just fall flat. And that coach, and I think that's what I remember hearing about some people that work with you. You still help them when they feel flat, and you help them to pick it back up and keep moving. Did you enjoy coaching? Did you enjoy being on that side and loving? Okay.
I mean, I think that that's why I continue to coach teachers and do this type of, like, I guess, tangential classroom work. Is because I enjoy it. I love my job. I love working with pre-service teachers. I enjoy working with fresh new teachers. I enjoy working with people who have been in the classroom for years, and I can learn from you to take what you're doing to help support somebody else. There's real power in mentoring.
There is power in mentoring, and I wonder too, what made you continue to stay in Memphis and do this? Because you could have, after you did CFA, staff, you could have went back home. You could have went. You stayed in Memphis. What made you do that?
I love Memphis, y'all. Seriously, I'd always wanted to be in an urban space where the community is reflective of myself. Growing up, I was not in spaces where there are a lot of people of color. And so that has always been a desire of mine. I love Memphis because it does remind me a little bit of my other favorite city, Cincinnati, Ohio. There's some grit. There's some grittiness to the city. And I fell in love with Midtown. I fell in love with, all the stuff you could do for the free and still enjoy yourself. Going to Lubbock Shell, that was my jam. Even just walking down Beale Street when Beale Street was a thing, at the height of Beale Street. I know. And hopefully it comes back. Hopefully we can revitalize.
I hope it does.
But there were just so many things, the green spaces in Memphis. I love the city, and it was also so close to home. If I needed to jump in my car and drive home, I could be home in the same day, and that was also important to me.
And I think hearing you talk about all the good stuff here, the fun, free stuff, I don't think people realize how many opportunities there are to explore and have a good time.
Yes.
As an adult in Memphis. I do worry about our kids. They don't have anything right now, but for adult me, I feel like I could always find something to do. Even though it seems like it's not like, no, we're not in Atlanta, but there's a lot of fun things to do here. There's
a lot to do, and I think that if you have your community of folks, right, you can get into something. And I do also think that Memphis just gets such a bad rap about being dangerous and high crime, and I think that, statistics are statistics, so we can't argue those things. The numbers are the numbers, but what I will say is I still feel very safe in the communities that I go to regularly. And I think that it is a perception that makes people feel like that there aren't things here. I was talking to a teacher that I work with now, and she was like, yeah, girl, we went to line dance. And I was like, y'all was at line dance, y'all didn't tell me?
I know.
And she was just like, it was so fun, and you should come. And it's things like that, where it's like those hidden gems that really shouldn't be as hidden, but I do feel like thanks to Choose 901, they've done a phenomenal job of posting things in and around the city for people to recognize there's culture here, there's a vibrant heart in the city, and there are wonderful people in the city that we just don't see on the news all the time.
I agree, and I think when I think about the vision of Memphis and the love of Memphis, I see education at the heart of it. I see people work together hand in hand, and I really see love at the end of the day. Like, if you are in Memphis, it's a city that you ultimately fall in love with. I don't see how you can't. I also know this is a city where a lot of people come and fall in love, and you fell in love here as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So look, the plug also is you come to TFA, you also can fall in love. Okay.
Find your me. Or a woman. Right. Find whoever you want to
Find your person. Okay.
Right.
Don't sleep on it, y'all. I'm telling y'all, we're in terms of matchmakers, we're unmatched. Okay, it keeps happening.
I don't disagree with that.
It keeps happening. So we got love, we got life. We figured out, okay, we like this. But tell me about the vision you have for yourself when you think about we're all fighting in TFA for all children to have access to a quality education, and you think about that vision. And I think sometimes people who hear about the vision and hear about TFA only think teaching or only think this one thing. But what I have found in my journey is what I love about TFA is it's multiple avenues to get to that vision, to make it a reality, and we actually need all those different avenues to get there. What was your vision of one day, and are you currently living it?
So I think the thing that drew me to Teach for America, aside from being the height of the recession, was this idea of equitable education. As someone who graduated from HBCU, a student who was almost always the one or two Black person in the classroom, and I had great quality education, K through 12, in all of the places that I've lived, but I really wanted to be a teacher that could see and connect with the student. And again, not that my teachers weren't, but it was different. And so I wanted to be somebody who provided quality education and could be a trusted adult, especially in my years in teaching middle school. That was something that was really dear to me, is like, I don't have to be the person that, you don't like everybody. You don't have to like everybody, but I want you to find a trusted adult who is somebody who is a safe space for you. And I think that's not necessarily what's missing in urban education, but I think so many people get disillusioned by urban education and forget why they are there.
That's a good
and
point.
If you're here to provide a quality education, it's also to be there to be an adult for these students that outside of their parents. You are not their parent. You will never be their parent, but you can be a trusted adult. And so that's what I think drew me to TFA. And I think now working at Memphis Teacher Residency, I think the two visions are what I think a lot about. This TFA's mission of like one day all children will receive equitable education or equal education, and then MTR's vision of restored communities living in dignity, with dignity and in peace, is really what I think a lot about for Memphis, is the dignity part, and the equal education part. Both of those things really matter to me, and recognizing that everyone is worthy of quality education. It doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what your experiences are. That is your right to be seen as a human being, and that when I go to school, I'm treated with dignity. That where I'm from, hopefully my community will be restored to a space where it is a peaceful space, and that I'm getting the same education as my peers in maybe a different area.
And I never thought about how acutely important dignity was until hearing you speak and hearing your journey and your story about dignity, basically. Like, I think about your entire journey has been about dignity, and that's huge. So what advice would you give incoming core members who are coming in, and from doing institute coaching and all that, all these preconceived notions, and I have never heard anyone actually speak about dignity being something to keep in mind when you're coming into the core or just teaching in general. But what would be your advice to these incoming core members? It could be about dignity, it could be something else, but if they're watching, what would you tell them?
I've been thinking a lot about this, because I've been thinking about this, and I was like, let me not ramble. We come into these programs like Teach for America or another alternative certification program
Mm-hmm.
with a vision for yourself of how you are going to change something, right? I'm going to go here and I'm going to change the school. I'm going to do this. And I'm not saying that you are not. But you are also a human being, and those schools were there before you. And there are people in that community who currently live there, and that is their home. And sometimes we want to impose our preconceived notions on their reality.
Yep. Come on.
And so keep the beliefs that you have about the changes you want to make, right? Keep those close and dear to yourself, but recognize that you are a human being as well. And in times when you are pressed and stressed, it's hard to forget that those are human beings sometimes. And I'm saying this from experience. I'm not saying this. Right. There have been times when this morning in the shower, I have a lot of good ideas in the shower. I was thinking about this and I was like, there are times when I was not my best self.
Yeah.
I was literally talking to one of the teachers I coach who teaches at Libertas in Fraser. And I was talking about when I taught in Fraser and how I was not the best teacher. And I feel like I did some of those students a disservice because I was so caught up on what I wanted to do and what I thought needed to happen. And why is this community like this? And I can't believe this. And I lost sight of the fact that they are fully formed human beings who need to be treated with dignity and respect. And my job is to show up as my best self, even when times are hard. And that also means that when you are pressed and stressed, showing up as your best self is still holding students to high expectations. Showing up as your best self is still recognizing that regardless of what anyone has done before them, you need to come in here prepared to this classroom. Now I'm looking at the camera on purpose. You need to come in here prepared to this classroom, because if not, we are falling into the trap that these programs were meant to fix. So when you are stressed and it's easy to close that, I'm not doing that lesson plan, I'm not gonna write no anticipated student responses. You need to, because at the end of the day, when you don't show up as prepared as you can be and your very best self, we are feeding into the system that has created this school and this situation that students are in. And I think that it goes back to give them put some respect on those folks' name, right? They need for you to show up and treat them like you'd want your child to be treated in the classroom. And sometimes we lose sight of that because we're so focused on self and we have the mirror up that we got to put our mirror down and recognize there's a whole space that was here before you came. So it's, short end, recognize that community is a whole community before you come and that you are now part of that community. And the only way you can make change is if you show up every day in the best version of you.
I think that was yum, delicious, because the idea of dignity is just really on my spirit, because I am showing you dignity is also tied to respect.
Absolutely.
And so I am showing respect by having my lesson plan together. I am showing you respect by making sure I appear like I actually want to be there and I want to be engaged in the conversation with you and we have to think about our little friends. They actually, sometimes you're teaching them when you're not giving direct instruction. 100%. You're teaching them how to deal with other people and adults. People down the hall, you might not like them, but that's okay. But when you act like you don't like them, now you're teaching your little friends the same thing.
100%.
And so that dignity part, and then dignity also reminds me of the golden rule or something, where it's like, I treat you how you want to be treated. Like I show up with you in mind, knowing that you have a mind, knowing that you have value, knowing that you have desires and aspirations. I don't put them on you or put my own on you. And I also, as I was listening to you, dignity made me think about, well, then in order to do all of that and show up as my best self, even when I don't want to, then how am I being honorable to myself and showing my own self-dignity?
I think sometimes we think best self means 100% all the time. And sometimes you are operating at 40%, be it you're tired, be it maybe you have chronic illnesses or whatever those things are. But if I have 40%, I need to give whatever I have that day.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the preconceived notions like, you just trying to have me put on and I'm not gonna fake it for these folks. Nobody's saying do that.
No, we're not saying
but what
that.
I'm saying is your best self is, like you said, I'm prepared for these students. I'm gonna say good morning,
Say good morning
to them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna meet them at the door.
Mm-hmm.
That's your best self,
Mm-hmm.
right? And no one's saying I gotta show up as you or show up as you,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to show up as who you are in this space.
Yes.
And I think that that's the thing, is like, you're not compromising yourself by trying to be your best self, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not compromising my attitude or who I am, because that sometimes, especially I think as a millennial, the newer generation is like, I'm not gonna put on, I'm not gonna fake it.
Yeah.
And no one's asking you to do that, but what
Mhm.
I'm asking you to do is, however you are,
Mhm.
I want you to show what excitement looks like for you.
Yes.
Because your excitement and my excitement is going to inherently be different,
Yeah.
but act like you want to be here, sis.
And remember that you chose to do this, right? Our children, some of them, we're working to make sure they always have a choice.
Yes.
And so how do we show up in a way like we got to choose to be here? We have the opportunities to. I also like to have conversations with our alums, because I think you spoke about disillusionment.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, as someone who, at this point, over a decade now in this work, it can get a little bit gloomy. It can get to a point where you like, we still fighting the same fight. What happened? I thought we would be, this wall behind us, y'all can't see it, is building the movement. And that's the wall we took from our old office, and all the alums signed that. Kenyari and myself signed that wall. And this is Reimagine What's Possible, a wall that every rite of passage for Memphis board members, they get to sign a wall. I don't know if I ever told y'all that on the camera, so there you go. That's a little history. But reimagine what's possible when you are constantly being 10 years in, like, knocked down, dragged out. You keep seeing this stuff. Like, give me some inspiration, because it can get dark. It can get.
I think sometimes, so I have been someone who I taught kindergarten, first grade, first 5 years, left, did a little work. After being a dean of students, went back in the classroom, did some second, third grade SPED, did some reading intervention for high school students, and the pandemic happened. And then I went back in the classroom and taught 7th grade at Soulsville for 4 years. And I don't, even now people are like, are you gonna go back in the classroom? I feel like I need to. If I'm gonna continue this work that I'm doing in order to be an effective coach, do I know what it's like to teach 9th grade? I don't. I know what it's like to teach middle school. I know what it's like to teach K through 5. I don't know that, and I think that it helps me understand the challenges that teachers have. But I think that there's something about movement, right? So I've been in and out of the classroom at this point 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times. And I'm still considering, what could my 50s bring, or, what could later in life bring. And I think that when you feel like you are having a hard time, I was having a hard time at Corning Elementary. And I think that if I would have stayed, I probably wouldn't be in education today. I would have left and just said, but I think taking the time out and being able to go and support other teachers and recognize the changes that I wanted to be made, being able to go and lead in a school-based capacity, what changes I would make if I were in the classroom, allowed me to, in my last stint in the classroom, were the best 4 years. But I will say, at that point, I had been in education for so long, right? I taught over this time from 2009 to now, 10 years collectively, and I think the best were my last 4. But I needed the time away. I needed to go do some professional learning. I got a master's degree in the science of reading that impacted how I showed up for my middle school students. It impacts how I teach my residents at MTR in our grad courses. I use all of that to be able to be someone who teaches classroom leadership and can support teachers, because I've been in all of the situations, right? And I think sometimes to not be disillusioned, don't feel like you are stuck doing what you're doing. And sometimes, when I got the offer to apply for the instructional coach role at MTR, I had a hard time because I love Soulsville. Like, if I wasn't at MTR, I'd be teaching 7th grade at Soulsville.
I love 7th grade.
I do too. There's some wild folks. But I had to tell myself that I am not single-handedly saving the children of South Memphis.
Okay.
And I wasn't single-handedly saving all the children of South Memphis.
True.
They could get, and they have great 7th grade teachers now that I help coach and support. And I had to recognize that you are not the only person just carrying this banner and carrying the burden. There are other people in this fight alongside you, so you can go take care of yourself, and you can go explore things, and you can do more professional learning to come back even better, but you ain't the only person out there. It's okay to go and explore something different, and that was something I had to continually tell myself, so that way I could learn and grow and continue to stay in the work.
That, y'all, I told y'all, amazing, she wrote, because I have not heard anybody put it that way about the power of movement. I think sometimes people think it's like, oh, you running from the classroom, oh, you're running to this or running to that. And if you change the perspective a little bit, it's really is no, I'm moving to gain more information. I'm moving to get more. I mean, think about your own body. If you sit still and don't move your body at all, you're gonna clunk out. Your body's not gonna work. Our bodies were made to move. So why would we not do that even within education? Maybe you, and I love that point about not feeling stuck. I think so many core members / alum feel that way about, I'm stuck in this class, or I'm stuck here, which goes back to like, well, if you feel stuck, then are you showing up with dignity? Are you respecting yourself? If you feel stuck, that means you feel powerless. If you feel powerless, then how do we show up more powerless? We don't show up as our best selves. We show up as if we're just surviving. And then we don't have to do that. We can actually choose to do something else. And that choice could be, maybe it's not leave education. Maybe it is just that school. Maybe it is that neighborhood. Maybe it is that city. Or maybe it is education, but then I'm going to go do something else and I come back with that information. That's just kiss. That's like seriously something I think we need to really hone in on, you all, and lean in on the power of, you are not only the one saving whatever field or whatever, you're not the only. And going back to the theme about, going back to Miss Nina Eccles. Miss Nina Eccles coming in, there's a community. And so we're feeling overburdened and overwhelmed. We have to lean into that community and lean into ourselves, be good and gracious with ourselves and be gracious with other people. And that sometimes means move. That sometimes means you gotta go. But don't forget what you learn or what you take with you, and don't forget to give it back.
Absolutely.
I'm loving it. Well, there were so many gems in this episode, y'all. I really hope y'all take the time to like play it back again and again and again, and put in the chat just some of your big aha moments, because I had one. The whole idea of like dignity blew my mind.
Well, I cannot own that for myself, but I will say shout out to David Montague at MTR, because when that's something that to me, organizations have, mission and vision, and I'm not somebody who can ramble it back, but that one sticks with me.
That sticks with you.
And it sticks with me because it's like restored communities living with dignity and in peace. That is whatever organization you ascribe to, you can't walk away from that and say that's not something that we all want. And it speaks to the humanity of people. And so I can't say that I own that, but I will say that that's what keeps me going in this work. Is how do we live that out, right?
How do we live that out? And y'all, that shout out, what's the name? The guy that told you that?
Oh, David Montague.
David Montague, thank you. Because that dignity piece, and then the peace. Oh my goodness, the peace part, we didn't even get a chance to touch that. We're about to have you back and talk about peace. But as you all are just on your own, really think about dignity. I really think that's one, that profound piece about dignity, and about how you're choosing to show up with dignity. And if you're not, why? Why are you not doing that? And I would encourage you to remember, you're not stuck.
No. You're
not the person that has to do it all by yourself. There is a community. And at the end of the day, we're all still working towards that one day, whatever that looks like. But you got to figure out what makes it happen for you. So if you need to move. All right, and move your fingers to likes and sharing this, okay? Because I want you to move the fingers. Okay, no, I'm just playing. But seriously, no, we need y'all to like it. All right, thank y'all so much for the time. We're going to come back with another episode with another dynamic guest. But show some love to Kenyari in the chat. She is a gem. Thank y'all so much. We'll see you later.